Hello and a lovely afternoon to you that is watching us live here on LITOVIA television. Of course, we are back to check in into those matters those issues that really matter. And of course, today we are having a very beautiful and interesting topic. And of course, as always, I have able people to, of course, discuss this particular topic with. And of course, it is always very important for us to understand that certain things do not just move by themselves. There should be someone to cause the ignition or the move, of course. And this day, I am, of course, I'm failing to find my flow really well because I'm really obliged to have people that are very special to me. Yeah, and yeah, let's just get into it anyway. The wheel of development of any country lies on the shoulder of how productive and creative the youth population is. They bring innovation, creativity, and energy. Of course, those are essential factors to development. And this is why today we are looking at the importance of youth participation in national development. And like I said earlier, I am joined by very important and special people. And this is Mr. Simate Simasiku. I'll save the titles for him so that, it does a good job on that one. But from what I know, he's the president for Cavendish University, UNA. And I'm also joined by Mr. Peter Kayombo, who is also a founder and chairperson of a movement called Youth Leaders Movement. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you have people like, welcome, gentlemen, or welcome, lady and gentlemen. But today, of course, it simply means that the issues that we're discussing today are very critical and very important. Yeah, just to dive into it, or maybe even before we go any further, Mr. Simasiku, just please run us through your background in terms of the titles that you carry. You've been the president for CUZ UNA and also been the mental health advocate. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, just to brief it,
Sure.
Since you've already mentioned the titles themselves, I would say the president for the United Nations Youth Association.
Okay.
So the United Nations Youth Association is a UNA chapter. So we have United Nations Association Zambia, and from UNA Zambia, we have these other chapters in different institutions. So what I'm doing basically is that I run a chapter at Cavendish University. And it's from there that we involve students and other young people to be involved in the development of sustainable development goals and how we bring in young people together for important issues on the matter. On top of that, you also know that I'm a mental health advocate. So when it comes to mental health, I can say that it's a rising issue in the country. It's not just in the country, around the globe. It's a very big issue that needs to be addressed. It's a very big issue that needs awareness. People need to learn. They need to understand what mental health is. It's not just a matter of going to Chainama, but it's way deeper than that, as we're going to find out as we are going to have this conversation.
Sure.
But yeah, it goes deeper than that.
Of course, mental health is a big issue. And I believe it's a global issue now. It's not just an issue that is in Zambia or any other country, but it's a global, concern.
It is.
And of course, here on Check-In, we check in into those issues that really matter. And of course, that's what we're doing this afternoon. Mr. President, I call you that as well because formerly you were my president. And congratulations on your graduation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I hope someone that is watching this particular TV show is like, okay, let me get that one. Yeah.
You got the degree on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, Mr. Peter, just
Sure.
run us through your background as well. The aspect of you being the founder and chairperson of Youth Leaders Movement.
Okay, so basically mine has been a passion. So, and from the time I was still young, I always wanted to aspire for something. And I'm one of those that would really want to spark change, to see something, working out. I'm one of those that tells myself, okay, what have I done? In a family, I need to ask myself, what have I done as a member of the family. And national at large, of course, I ask myself as a citizen, what is it that I've done? Instead of me blaming other people, what is it that I've done? So basically, like you introduced me, of course, we came to university. We never just wanted to graduate with a degree. We wanted to do extra more. Sure. So we went into student politics. We won the elections. And of course, not only that, we went on a national scale. We went into Zanasu. And of course, after that, I decided to say, okay, there is one thing that I've observed. Most of these things, what is really happening in our country is that majority of the people that are into leadership are elderly people. Why are we as young people not being given that opportunity to lead? So I decided to come up with this movement so that we can push the agenda of young people to see to it that more young people aspire for leadership. It might be political-wise, it can be in corporate business, anywhere, but the aim is to see that we've got young people that are leading these organizations.
Okay, yes. And for them to lead, they have to participate.
Of course.
And this is why today we'll be looking at the importance of youth participation in national development. Just to delve into it, how do you define or describe youth participation in national development? Yes, Mr. Peter.
Okay, thank you. Participation of youth in governance or in government, it's being given an opportunity as young people to contribute to the national matters. Young people who are into the forefront of ensuring that whatever that is happening is taking place into the nation. They've got a stake. They are contributing. They are airing out their views. They are participating in matters of national concern. And their ideas are being implemented. Because participations can only take place when your views are taken into consideration. If you ask me to do something, I give you my input, and you do not actualize it, there is no participation in it. All what you wanted was just to consult me. So what you do with whatever I've told you, it's up to you. But what we're talking about, young people participating, so we are saying having individuals who contribute, who air out their views, and the government take into consideration what the young people are really saying. Then that we call it participation.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Simasipo, do you agree with what Mr. Peter has just said, or you would like to add something or subtract something?
I think I would very much agree with what he's saying, and I would also add that, so there are two types of engagements that are there when it comes to the community. So we have a tokenistic involvement for young people, and we have a meaningful involvement. So the meaningful engagement, this is where the young people themselves are brought to the table to discuss the matter, and they are there as implementers as well. So when we talk about a tokenistic approach is something that we have seen, especially in Zambia, for a long period of time, where we see people with positions of power, they come and involve young people, but only at the stage where they want them to do something for them. Like in this case, I would say they want them to campaign for them. That's a tokenistic approach. You're just doing it on paper. It's not really engaging the youth. Because even if they give you the matters that are there, you're going to get their voice, you're going to do whatever it takes to get them close to you, but afterwards you're going to put them away, which means that it's not meaningful. So a meaningful engagement, this is why you bring in the young people, you make sure that they get the opportunities that you promise them, you make sure that you hear what it is that they want. And when you hear what they want, you implement, and you give them positions that actually allow them to gain the experience that is required for the real world.
Yes. I'm learning a lot of things.
And maybe if I may add to what you have just said, what we are seeing today, it's people are doing things for the media purposes. We sit together here, all what they want is the media, the social media community to see that, oh, Blessing is doing ABCD, but in actual sense, there is nothing that they will consider after it. So that is not called participation of young people.
Okay. So you are coming from a background where you really talk much about, the sustainable development goals. And I would like to hear from you. Are we involving the youths that much in, achieving these sustainable development goals?
Okay, so to answer that question, I'm going to take you back a little bit where we had the Millennium Development Goals. Sure. So one of the issues that arise from the Millennium Development Goals was that there was little participation of young people. So the Millennium Goals ended in 2015. So from 2015 up to 2030, we have the SDGs. So the SDGs implementation basically brought about also aspect of involving young people into the development of different issues around the world. That's why we have the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So with that being said, we have organizations that were put into place, such as UNA, to ensure that there's meaningful engagement with young people. So those organizations came into place so that young people will have a say in development matters. So with that being said, I would say the progress at which we are moving at, it's very low, as you may know that. It's very low, but the participation from young people has also been coming up very good. Okay. Yes.
On the political aspect, because I know for sure that you are in politics. Let me not just say politics, but of course, you've shown this like in our university. Yeah, you were once a president for the union, and I believe you have a great sense and understanding of the political, arena in Zambia. So this question is basically directed at you. Yeah, in a political sense, do we have enough avenues and incentives that support or encourage youth participation in national development or matters?
Okay, so in political landscape, if you ask me that question, I don't really feel we have enough avenues for young people to thrive. Because what is normally happening, if you check through, you find that most of the opportunities that are coming for young people, they will tell them right now, form cooperatives, then apply for CDF, then we empower you into that line. So young people are being limited to CDF. Young people are being limited to carpentry. Young people are being limited to vocational training. Wow, these major positions are occupied, I normally call them madalas. And these people can do anything possible to block young people from thriving. And the reason is simple. If you've checked through, Zambia is a youthful nation. 70% of the population is comprised of young people. But these young people, if you are to go into these institutions and check, few people are occupying positions in there. And normally, what is really happening is young people are like pawns. If it's in the military or whatever, you call them as frontliners. They are the ones that fight for the big bosses that are here. So as things stand now in our country, young people are not really being given that much opportunity to thrive, especially political-wise, because it's considered only those are the ones that are supposed to.
Mr. Peter, don't you consider the fact that when these people are exposed to leadership at any level, they are being prepared for future leadership?
Okay, so
when they take them for vocational training, they're giving them a particular skill which they expect them to use in future. Is that not empowering them for future participation in national issues? So
when you talk about future, myself and my organization would not really buy into that idea, because we've grown up being told we are the future leaders. We are the leaders of tomorrow. Now, I want to ask you a question. When is the future? When is the tomorrow? Because if you tell me I'm the leader of tomorrow, come tomorrow, you'll tell me, what did I say? You are the leader of tomorrow. The tomorrow continues. And now the question here is, who is the leader of today? We have got young people that are doing extremely well in this country. I can give you an example of Ndumisani. See how that guy is doing entrepreneurship-wise. He's striving very well. So you are telling me, if you give that gentleman responsibility, will he fail? He will not fail. So what we are saying is, do not limit us with vocational training, because there is so much more that young people can do. Because if you say they are being prepared, now I want to ask you a question. Who prepared those that are into leadership today? At what dead. Now, at what stage were they ready? So this is our country. Or what we are saying is, let there be equal distribution of the national cake. In everything that we do, young people need to be considered as people that are wise, people that are willing to sort out issues affecting their nation. Sure. By you not giving us an opportunity, you are just denying us an opportunity to contribute positively to Mata Zambia.
All right, participation is the key term. And of course, today we're looking at the importance of youth participation in national development. And you that is watching us either on social media or you're watching us on Topstar or any platform, of course, you can be part of this conversation by simply calling or texting the number that is showing on your screen. Mr. Smasiku, some section of our society argues that youth participation in development is stifled, or rather stifled, due to lack of employment opportunities for most. What is your take on this one?
When you talk about the issues that are affecting society, right? We have so many of the issues that are affecting society today. We have a number of them. But if we really bring them down to the scope, so who is the majority? Who understands the majority, right? Who's the majority right now? I'll ask you that question. Who's the majority?
The youth.
The youth are the majority. So the problems that are arising, who understand them better?
Of course, the youth.
The youth. So when you bring in a person that is with all due respect, of course, from a different generation, that see the problems of young people as just whining and talks, where do you think young people are going to resort to? What do you think young people are going to resort to doing? Of course, we have young people that have put themselves together, that they are going to stand for what's right, and they're going to push themselves into positions of power, whether they like it or not. But the crack is there. The crack is going to be opened. We're going to open it up, and we're going to have young people to be in positions of power. We already have members of parliament who are already contributing to that.
Sure. Let's just try to accommodate this call.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello? You're through to LITOVIA television watching Check-in TV. Sure. Hello? Oh, we lost that one. Okay. Yes, you can continue with your point.
Yeah, so as I was saying, we have so many things that are affecting young people, but what we need to consider is that how is the process being done to involving them? As I mentioned earlier, I mentioned two terms. Is it tokenistic? Is it meaningful? So
when you say tokenistic, is it just the issue of, you bring, the youth, you talk about these issues, you give them the hopes and what, then you just, leave them like that? Or what exactly do you mean when you...
When I say tokenistic, let me write it in this particular way, right? I represent the United Nations Youth Association, right, at Cavendish University. And then we have a representative from government that is coming, and then I prepare a speech. I prepare a speech, and then I give it to you to read it. Is it what the students of Cavendish want?
No.
Who wants that?
The person that presents.
The person that presents. So that's a tokenistic approach. And we see that happening a lot where people in positions of power, if a minister is is going somewhere to a particular province or what, young people are given prepared speeches, you see, by some offices. They'll be given speeches to read out. But when you read out, that's not what you want. And of course, I don't even blame the young people when they take those speeches and read them, because they also want to brand themselves as capable young people who can take up responsibility. So I don't blame them, because the system that has been put in place is neglecting young people. So when a young person stands up to say, no, this is enough, like Mr. Peter says, this is enough, he wants to make change in the community. He wants to be the person that we look up to, and which is a very good thing.
Sure.
Yes.
In most cases, we've seen and experienced the importance of youths when it comes to election time. And of course, we tend to ask questions, say, are we just tools to be used when it comes to elections, or do we have a greater share in this cake? What is your take on that?
So I want to borrow his word, tokenistic.
Yes.
I will respond it that way. You see, if you listen to me earlier on, I said we are being used, and it is time of campaign that you truly know how we are being used and abused. I made mention that we are being used as pawns, as frontliners, to fight, to protect, for those that we consider our leaders. And when they win, it's a different story altogether. If they are picking up your cause, things changes. Opportunities, they'll be like, no, no, I'll link you to this one. It's not the matter of trying to fight your way out again. So it's not a question to say, do they use us? They use the young people. And I will give you an example. Prior to 2021 general elections, we saw how many young people died. And I'll mention this without any fear of contradiction. We've got people like Mapenzi, we've got people like Kaunda, we've got people like Nsama, we've got people like Muzila, the lady who died at Unza. All these are young people. These are just few examples I'm trying to give you. If you go to Luansha, there was a by-election there, we lost Kasongo. All in the name of trying to protect and fight for the people that they consider as their leaders. I'm not saying as young people we shouldn't involve ourselves into politics, but I'm saying it's really wrong for politicians to use us as a means of them ascending into leadership. And this is a plea that I would really love to make to young people. We need to be logical with how we address these matters, with how we support these politicians. You know, they are saying that as young people, as a nation, we have lost our patriotism to the country, to the flag, to the national anthem. So our patriotism now is to the biggest opposition leader or the biggest political party. That shouldn't be the case. We should stand for what is right for our country. That's number one. So we should be people that should question things. For example, you know, I always tell my colleagues, politicians will tell you what you want to hear and not what they will do. Let's say, for example, an MP. An MP, just a minute.
Mr. Peter,
yes.
When you talk of, you know, young people, of course, they're supposed to know their stance, they're supposed to know what they're capable of doing. But a big question that, you know, a lot of scholars bring out is the issue of education.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about education?
What role does the levels of education play pertaining to youth participation in national development? I say this because you need to give someone should have the capacity before they even make that move to go and, you know, take part or maybe take up leadership positions. Okay. So if they do not have the capacity, they do not have the education that is required of them, how will they participate, you know, in national matters?
So you were saying, unless you are educated, then you can.
Scholars thought.
The scholars.
Sure.
Of course, that's their thoughts. But the world is evolving. You and me can have a different thought altogether. I want to give you an example of our forefathers, our freedom fighters. These were young people. And if you check their background, how many were educated, really educated? But what they had was the passion for the nation. Or what they had was the zeal to liberate their country, to see their country free. And these are young people. So we are saying, when you give young people an opportunity, they can thrive. And these people will do wonders, like they did when Keke. If there is a clip I watched of Keke in one of the meetings, he said, we are here to negotiate for peace, and peace without any condition. If you want to bring any condition, we are not taking part of it. And even when you kill us, our blood, young people still rise up on our blood, and they will still do something.
They're not saying that he said young people, because yes, it's basically the youth they're talking about. But in the interest of time, of course, I would like to switch and go to Mr. Masiko. Yeah, I brought in a point of education, and of course, I believe when you're looking at the SDGs, there's an aspect of education, right?
Yes.
What is your thought on this, argument or assertion? Say the role that education plays in terms of youth participation.
Okay, so in terms of youth participation and education, I would put it in a sense where what is it that the young people that are learning in these schools that can actually make them capable young people to make change into the environment that they're in? First of all, you don't need to drink dirty water for you to know that it's bad. But just by seeing it, you know that, okay, this water is dirty, right? So what type of education are we sending to the deepest levels of living that are out there, that don't have access to social media, they don't have access to good schools? That is the majority in Zambia. We may deny it, but many young people today, it's either they have to walk 3 kilometers to go to school to get that so-called education, or they can't even go because it's very far. So if we say, how are we going to teach those young people to be responsible young people? The same education we're talking about, right? But the system that is in place is all about go to school, I'm sure we've all been taught this, right? Get your grade 12 certificate. Get your degree. When you get your degree, there's a job waiting for you. And when you finish, when you manage to reach that level where you have your degree, like Mr. Kayombo here has his degree, right? They tell you to say, no, start entrepreneurship. Look at other young people in other countries that are doing all these things. You've taught me close to 15 years. You've kept me waiting for that job. And when it's time for you to give me that job, basically I have acquired the education that is necessary for me to acquire that certain position that you promised me. And when it's time for you to let go of that position and give it to me, you're telling me to become an entrepreneur. Did you teach me entrepreneurship skills? Did you show me what is required for me to raise money for me to become an entrepreneur? It's not just something that you wake up and say, I want to become an entrepreneur, and you become an entrepreneur. It needs planning. Did you teach me strategic marketing in order for me to build a product and sell it to other people? Did you teach me how to negotiate with people, with stakeholders that will be able to buy my ideas? So meaning the education system that you're teaching me is flawed, right? If those things are not happening, then there's something wrong that's there with education. Okay. So with that being said, I would say, let's teach young people skills that they need and not things that will just keep them in a classroom for 12 good years, and at the end of the day, you just tell them to no, become an entrepreneur. Well, you do not teach them necessary requirements for them to become that entrepreneur that you want them to be. And when I talked about people in the young villages, young people in villages, so what I mean by that is that there are a lot of young people in villages, and what are they doing? It's just, you go farming, you know, and then when they try to strive actually in the market of the industry that is there right now, when they try to come to Lusaka or make business right there are a lot of them that are swindled. We've had a lot of stories of them that are being swindled by the marketplace. Why? Because they do not understand the market. So how do you teach those young people when you go for an outreach?
I'm getting the sense, or rather a feeling that you're driving at the point that we have a system of education that is inadequate.
We have a system of education that brings young people to sit in classrooms and not become productive young people.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so in the area of politics, scholars argue that there is lack of financial resources to mount campaigns for leadership positions. What is your understanding of this assertion, and to what extent do you think it affects youth participation negatively in our national development? Mr. Peter.
I think on that one, I'm being tempted to agree with the scholar, but you see, like we are saying, nowadays it's all about money. Of course, campaigns are something that are huge, that really require one to invest heavily, and we have a population that has been introduced to, giving something. They believe when you give me something, then I'll vote for you. What is my take? But if we go back to our freedom fighters, our forefathers, what they stood for them it was the passion. They had the zeal. They had the passion to save the country. And so if only we can allow young people to express themselves that way, and you see, get rid of corruption, because in all these institutions, what is killing us the most is corruption. That's why you're finding that young people can't fight the elder guys that are already into the system, because they know where to press. They know who they can give what. And now for you and me that has got pure idea, who mean it truly well for your country, if you do not have resources, it becomes a challenge. And what I can say is, as young people, I feel like we really need to stand for one another. If you are standing...
When I speak of capacity, yes. I think this aspect is still coming back, because if you don't have, you don't have the financial muscle, you cannot take part in, these leadership, political leadership positions. So it still goes back to the issue of capacity building. If these young people do not have the resources that they need for them to participate, they cannot take part.
So let's get something straight here. The first thing is not money. The first thing is the passion you have to save your country. Let's get it straight. Money comes in to facilitate the movement or the entire process. But if you have the zeal, you really mean well for your country, that should be priority number one. And then money should just come in as a backup to facilitate, for example, logistical support and other stuff that can make everything being accomplished. But if you talk about money, then we are heading toward a situation whereby those with money can simply buy. And at the end of the day, they are going to make even more money when they are there and then forgetting to save the people they claim they are representing.
Okay, so in the interest of time, I would like to move. Of course, it's really, you know, a broad conversation. How best can youths or the young people participate in national development?